And when people come to you and you to ask for it, you can say, I asked for it, yeah, and I didn't get it.
I've got to print it off. But if you
I can see it more warranted this year, but I don't see it much. I'm working for it, and I don't see that kind of on it now. Oh, wait, so I thought, and he's doing good, but it's just kind of, yeah. I think that the other one.
How many brothers and sisters?
And that's it's something, oh, we're blowing out water every month. It was like the 34th month, I mean, I know it's a problem, but it's better to do that than go up here and have to go back and say, sorry, either we're taking this away or yeah, my entire family is kids. Yeah. That's my brother's type. Well, it's not really so much naturally.
Even if it's coming from
He did it full and had to have that on. So,
additional permits to stop processing now. In-house, ones that are in-house are not going to stop. Or so it includes
we got them all. Set it.
I was almost this flying. So that was hilarious.
That was a thorough legal research, right? What's funny is like I don't even think he had time to read everything I gave him. Like I gave him a
Everybody jumps on.
but you know, that was it was actually a pretty ambiguous statement because I'm sure that paragraph password is because my hotspot. I can
A lot of responsibility. Won't be long. You probably have to be driving them around.
This starts me off because you have to give people yeah. And if it's just not and you're not giving them and you're going to point out what's going on, yes. What else do you do? It's just pretty thing to do. Well, we have to do a couple parts.
Yeah. Remember what it say? I call this the court. Yeah. Is that your mama out there in the blue? Is that her? Because I keep seeing her looking up here.
Her name's Gail.
All right. Wonder we got it. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'd like seeing a big crowd. This is awesome. So it is a little past 6. We apologize. We kept you waiting just a minute, but we had an important guest that was on his way, and we want to make sure that he had an opportunity to do that. So our most important guest right now is Zoe Collier. She is right here to my left. She is 8 years old, she tells me. That's what it said on her driver's license, right? Is that right? Yeah. She goes to Jefferson School. She's going to be in the 3rd grade. And her mom, Raquel Miller, is out there in the crowd with us. And she says she has 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and she is the oldest. That's what I heard. So I'm going to turn it over to Zoe. go, ma'am. You're gonna need that. So reach right up there and speak nice and clear.
I call this meeting to order.
Give it a good smack. Good job. Good job, Zoe. All righty. Find my. All right, so we've got, let's do our declaration of quorum. So we'll call the roll.
Matthews,
Here.
Weaver,
Here.
Flood,
Here.
Bolt,
Here.
Rutherford,
Here.
Seymour,
Here.
Salter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All righty, thank you. And let's see, Pastor Fields is going to do the invocation for us tonight, our good friend from just south here at Union Missionary Baptist Church. Thank you, sir.
If you would bow your heads with me. Dear wise and loving Father, first let me thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for a measure of health we need to fulfill all our callings. For sustenance and for friendship, thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. The thanks as well for the freedom to embrace the freedom and the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so through your grace. Father, we ask right now, and we pray for the many and various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembly that is this council on this day. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare that will help the people of this community, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence for what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. I pray that the agenda set for today, that you would please give them assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work around our beloved city of Shawnee. And we ask these things in your strong name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. All right, if you would join in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty, so we will do item 1 is citizen participation. I've got quite a few names here, which I'm really happy to see. So like always, it'll be a 3-minute limit per person, 12 minutes per topic. Our timekeeper will be our city attorney, and he will let me know when your time is up, and we'd ask you to end your comments at that time. So first on my list here is Mr. Rob Morris. So Rob, if you come down. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Tonight, for the Shawnee Forward contract that's coming up, this is all supposed to be predicated and contingent upon the district attorney's legal opinion on this. In Oklahoma State, Title 19, 215.5 states that he cannot give an opinion on city matters. I went to this county commission meeting today, and they don't have a clue about this DA's opinion that's supposed to be on here. And Shawnee Forward is wanting to remove all the transparency to show us what our tax dollars do. That seems to be a problem too. Next, Seth, who owns the parklet? It got moved the other day, but who has the liability insurance if someone gets hurt? The city, Seth, Blue Zones? Decisions on the downtown Main Street program should not have been made or even discussed at the contract review committee. It didn't have anything to do with Seth and shouldn't have been talked about. The Streetery, was the city survey created by the city, or was it a personally created survey? That matters. MacArthur Sidewalks, number 13. Are we going to spin this all over again when we widen MacArthur later? And is ODOT going to give us the money a second time to do sidewalks again? let's see, lake ordinances. The kayak dock that's over there right now is not in a safe location. To give you an example, someone said they came through at the end of their day, and just like they were told, they adjusted. Well, here's the problem. They adjusted to a kayak dock that's not going to move and had no kayaks around it because it's out of order right now. Put 20 kayaks around that, now you got safety issues with people and boats. Simple. We can move it. We can put it over on Lake One, just to the east of the fishing dock that sits there now. Add some more handicap parking. It already has a bathroom, already has beach and parking over there. Good deal. Let's see. Next thing. As of right now, 225.2, personal watercraft, which are kayaks, aren't even allowed on Lake 2, which I do think we should change. They should be able to go around the shores on Lake 2, but as the ordinance states right now, they're not allowed to. The next thing, 16216F, there's no personal rental or donation accepting nonprofit rental business can operate on Shawnee Lakes. That's city ordinance right now. Can't operate a business out there. Last thing, Ward 4 Commissioner, Part 1, Article 3, Section 7, ceasing to reside in your ward or even in town requires the commission to remove said commissioner. Happy Acres RV Park is not the city limits of the city of Shawnee. This has been the residence of the commissioner for some time now. That is new business, and I would like to see that taken care of tonight. Also, in 2 years, when that seat comes back up for election, should that commissioner be back in that ward, run again. Go for it. But rules are rules. John Winteringer versus Lisa Shaw is the precedent on that. He was told to leave the election. She won by default because he moved out of his house. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, so number 2 here, we have Michael Canaday. How you doing, Michael? Good to see you.
All right, so this is concerning the lake. 16-1 is a new set of definitions. This section is new, serves to define the types of vessels and activities used or performed on lakes. Currently has no definition for human-powered boats. To reduce confusion, we would recommend standardizing terminology between what is a watercraft, a motorized watercraft, and a paddlecraft, possibly making a separate definition for kayaks, canoes, paddle boats to paddlecraft, pedalcraft, or other human-powered vessels with motors less than 10 horsepower. There are many options today for these types of boats, and we need to be specific. As the definition reads currently, there could be no paddlecraft with a trolling motor allowed on Lake 2, as it has a propeller. 16-218, this change currently states that kayaks, canoes, and paddle boats are permitted within 100 feet of the shoreline between sunrise and sunset. We would like to see that changed to be in line with Oklahoma boating laws, which do not prohibit such activity. Paddlecrafts simply need appropriate lighting according to our state laws. It's in an increased effort of our city being in line with our 2040 comprehensive plan to increase tourism with the hope of a kayak rental proposal. Having this edit would make our current code very limiting to those endeavors, and we've been trying to provide for our community. Having this restriction will dramatically reduce the number of paddlers who choose to come to our lakes, thereby dramatically reducing sales tax collection for our city. There's only one other lake in Oklahoma that has a shoreline rule, and that's Stinchcombe that we found. So we realize that this was made in an effort to increase safety measures, but paddle sports should not be treated any differently than pedestrians and cyclists making their own choices of safety each day when they enter the roadways with other vehicles. Our recommendation is to remove both the shoreline and the time restriction from that proposal. 16-225, this section as written prohibits the use of human-powered vessels with trolling motors, those under 10 horsepower, including fishing boats, on Lake 2. We recommend that Section 2 be clarified, possibly adding that distinction, that paddlecraft, human-powered vessels equipped with motors under 10 horsepower are allowed on Lake 1 and 2. 16-405, as was mentioned before, Part K limits rentals to only personal watercraft, which has been defined as what we would normally call a jet ski. We think that that should be changed to either vessels or watercraft. Both of those would cover all rentals. And 16-253, this section covers licensing fees. We feel that this should also define whether this includes trolling motors. As it states now, it's any motorized. So if it has less than 10 horsepower trolling motor, should it have a licensed fee? So that is the gist of it. We'd recommend using the Coast Guard definitions for vessel, for let's see. We have vessel, they have personal watercraft, they have paddlecraft, rowboat, sail only. I would recommend using those and having it consistent throughout all those.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All righty. Next up is Teresa Cody. Ms. Cody, you're welcome to come up and address everyone. How are you tonight?
Hi, just fine. I just would like to thank Commissioner Flood for reaching out to me and us having some conversations. And I look forward to having more to discuss some of the needs for the business owners downtown and the city to kind of bring us up to speed on what's going on before it becomes for the commission and is voted on. I really appreciate that. Right now, I don't have anything to say about the parklet or streetery, whatever you want to call it. We had a good meeting this morning, and we are doing some discussing on that amongst the business owners. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Next up is Randy Gilbert. How are you doing, Randy? Doing all right?
Good, you guys good? Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing us to come tonight in the public comment section. We're getting ready for International Finals Youth Rodeo number 29, but it'll be our 28th event thanks to the COVID restrictions last year. But we look forward. We open entries back on May the 1st. We have several states have interest that are coming. There's around 400 contestants and about 750 events that are online so far. So very positive. We look forward to that. I reached out to the city commissioner, the city manager, who is part of the trust authority with me. We're going to discuss the insurance for the Expo Center. We reached out last week, and we'll do that this week, I hope. So that due to the management contract and the change in structure, we just want to make sure the trust authority's beneficiaries, the city of Shawnee, so we want to make sure we all have liability insurance. Not only us as trust authority members, but also you as the city and the city commissioners. We're considered, the IFYR is considered one of the legacy events at the Expo Center, and we feel like as volunteers for the rodeo and as contestants and contractors that are coming in, we have concern on the condition. So what I would ask you as city commissioners, if you have not, please make a trip out through the Expo Center. If we're 30 days before we have our first contestant. In 2019 when we had the event, we had 34 states and 3 countries. So the Expo Center for that group will be the first representation of their visit to Shawnee, Oklahoma. Suzanne and I were visiting with our youngest daughter coming over today, and we talked about pride. About pride and what you do. It's on your sign. She shared with us that her definition of pride is personal responsibility in developmental effort. So I think that's a big statement, and I would just encourage each of you in your time, make a trip out there and help us make a positive representation to the people that come to Shawnee, Oklahoma for their first event. That's a big statement. So thank you, and if we can do anything for you or do anything with you, please reach out. I know most of you, so see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy. All right, let's see who's next. I like it when we have lots of people. Andrew Johnson, you're up, sir. Come on down. How you doing,
Good
Andrew?
evening, Mayor and members of the City Commission. I would like to express my support for the proposal to allow streeteries. I am in favor of this proposal because I believe that it would be good for the business of restaurants. I think that outdoor spaces for visitors to gather in will encourage those visitors to step inside to buy food and drinks, and those visitors will be glad to discover the good food available at Shawnee's restaurants. I am in favor of this proposal because I think it might help us come together as a friendly community. Streeteries provide more places for the people to gather with each other and for us as a community to get to know one another. I understand that there are concerns about parking and accessibility, and I appreciate those concerns. But I believe it is possible for those concerns to be addressed while still moving forward with the Streetery's proposal. I also hope that this is a sign of things to come and that the City Commission will continue to work towards providing Shawnee with many more pedestrian-friendly outdoor spaces. I'm in favor of this proposal because bustling and vibrant communities provide not just great restaurants, but great experiences overall. I believe that Shawnee can be that kind of city, and I'm excited by what this proposal represents. For the reasons of good business, community gathering, and making Shawnee a vibrant place to visit and live, I respectfully ask that the Commission please support Streeteries in Shawnee. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Alrighty, so let's see. Kenny Sparks? Hello, Mr. Sparks, how are you?
Great.
Good. Glad you came to see us tonight.
Thank you for having me out, allowing me out today. I'm here to visit with you all about the potential zoning changes out at the lake.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm for it or against it. To be honest with you, I read the proposed language, and it's pretty broad, and it actually created a lot of questions for me. And I thought, well, I'd see if I could get some answers. So here we go. The lakes aren't large lakes. And so before I get into my questions, I had a question about, has there been a lake carrying study where it tells you how many vessels, different kinds of vessels, a census, if you will, of what goes on the lake and when it goes on the lake to determine what the lake can support? And there may have been one done, I don't know. But it would be interesting to see that if it has been done, and if it hasn't been done, I would suggest that we might just at least look into that and see if it's feasible.
Just I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to clarify one thing. We won't respond to questions during this normally.
I understand.
So you'll hear it during the discussion and commissioners' comments at the end. So I didn't want you to think that we weren't going to be responsive to you. That's all. That was my.
I've been married 52 years, being non-responsive.
All right, I didn't mean to
That's
take
not
any
an
of your time,
issue
and
with me.
I'm sure our attorney will
You give me that
time
look,
back.
I'm leaving now.
The last thing I wanted is you not to realize that that's the way we be, and we weren't being rude, I promise.
Thank you. I just have a couple questions. Mainly on the repeals, the document states that if there's a conflict, if this conflicts with any, or whatever it winds up being passed, conflicts with other ordinances or clauses, they're automatically repealed. Well, it would be beneficial to me, and I guess the other people that don't know where they're at on this yet, to see what impact it has. You know, what's changing. We know that we're adding commercial, of course, but there may be other things because of this language. It makes me wonder what it is. And then really, the emergency clause, I was just curious about that because that there hasn't been, to my knowledge, and I'm not being critical, I'm just making a statement, there hasn't been any communication or conversation about this that I'm aware of, and I'm not, it'd be nice to have an opportunity to visit about it. So with that, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I know I didn't do as good a job as that young lady, I'll tell you.
She did
Thank
a good
y'all
job.
for
Thank you, sir.
letting me speak.
Okay. Let's see. Hope I read this. Kobe Abbott. Did I say that right? Okay. Well, okay. That's fine. But thank you for coming tonight. All righty. So Steve Mulliken. How you doing, Steve?
Yes, sir. I was just wanting to say something about the homeless people in town.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it just seems we're getting more every day, different. I mean, because me and my wife live downtown, and we live across from the new museum down there, and it's just really getting out of hand because we've had to cut down all these trees around our buildings out there because they make camps in there. And I've got a friend down on Oklahoma Street, and they're in behind the creek, you know, behind his business, and his business has been broke into. Right. They stole some tools out of there. But I just know you can't hardly leave your doors open on your shop, because if you go out the front door, they're walking through there and they'll reach in and grab, you know. And if you've ever worked on a car, you know how much tools. I know Mark does. But and just, you know, I just don't know, you know, what you can do for the situation. And at first we tried to warm up to them, you know, but then they just kept coming around, and it's just like, man, it just seems like it's getting worse. I don't know.
Okay.
But just where we could do to maybe do something for them, or however you can, you know, address the situation.
Okay, very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Michael San Pedro. I didn't see him. There he is. How you doing, Michael?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. Council members, I wanted to talk about Agenda 14. My name is Michael San Pedro. I own a dispensary here in Shawnee, and I see that there'll be some discussion limiting the amount of permits given to dispensaries. And I just wanted to ask the council to really strongly consider this. As a dispensary owner myself, you know, I can only speak for my dispensary, but I can also say for all the other dispensaries in this town, they've surrendered a lot. They've given up a lot of their time, their money, their effort, and we're being assaulted by out-of-state people who are coming in and taking our industry because, you know, it has unlimited grow, $2,500 dispensary license, which has additional fees, as you guys know, but, you know, it's really affordable to get into this market. So I think we're at roughly 2,200 dispensaries with a state of 4 million. California has roughly 40, and it has 1,400 dispensaries. I mean, I'm not wanting to deny other people an opportunity, but I also don't want to see the industry that so many of us, and this council included, has helped build these jobs and these businesses. We just currently got medical insurance a few months ago. So it's going to take funds to keep that going. And when you diminish the pie by so much, you know, at some point, you know, we're going to have to cut our pay and cut our benefits just to stay afloat because of oversaturation. So I really would like the council to consider myself, my employees, and the people in this industry, in this community, and, you know, strongly think about, you know, where we want to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if we got anybody else. Okay, I don't see anyone else on these two. And Casey, was there any more? No. Okay. So I guess we've got everybody. Thank you so much. Oh, wait a minute. Is there one more?
I'm sorry, I didn't get my name on.
Well, come on up. Come on up. We'll get you to add it on here.
I apologize, I didn't get my name on the
That's
list.
okay.
My name is Julie Ackerman. I live out at the Shawnee Twin Lakes. I don't have a lot to say except that I know there's this issue coming up, number 15, I believe. And I just really want people out there to be able to have some input. It doesn't seem like this is the first we've seen of it. We don't really know what's going on. We'd just like to have something a little bit more in-depth. That's really all I'm saying, is just give us
Okay.
some...
Would you do me a big favor?
Yes, sir.
Let's take, if you just take this back to the young lady way in the back there, and just send your information there for her. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you
I
coming out
appreciate
to
it.
speak tonight. All righty. So we are up to item 2, consideration of the consent agenda. Is there anything you guys would like to pull off the consent agenda? See some no's. Anybody got a motion for the consent agenda?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Okay. Matthews and Weaver. All righty, so we have motion and second for approval of the consent agenda. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Item 3. should be presentation on animal control. We have pet of the week. I did hear a dog out there earlier. I see Chief motion him this way, so a little dog this week. How are you guys?
Good. My name is Brandy. This is Justin. We're with Animal Welfare here. Our pet of the week is Wilbur. We think is about 3 years old. He is neutered and current on his rabies vaccination. He is up for adoption. His adoption fee is $5 with a $5 city tag. Currently at the shelter, we have 33 dogs, 12 cats, and a pig. We have 8 dogs have been adopted, 1 cat has been adopted, 2 dogs went to rescue, and 12 dogs were reclaimed. This Saturday from 8 to noon, we will have Doggies and Donuts adoption event, and the adoption fee is $5 for that. And
where will that be?
I'm sorry?
Where will that be?
It'll be at the shelter.
At the shelter, okay. So make sure people know.
Also, we would like to thank Grooven Records for the shelter donation drive that they did for us.
That's neat.
That's all we have
So
this
one of these times you need to at least bring us a picture of the pig.
I'm sorry?
You need to bring us at
You want
least
a
a
picture of the
picture of the
pig?
pig.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bet we can manage
I think
that.
the dog's found a home.
Oh, he's found a home.
It's just
Go home with him.
It's just $5.
It's a shame he's not friendly.
He's a big lover.
That is neat.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. I think he'd go home with just about anybody. That's pretty cool. All righty. Item 4 is the mayor's proclamation. We're going to do this just a little different. It's for the commemoration of Juneteenth in the Dunbar Heights Historic Neighborhood. I think we have 4 representatives here, Pastor Fields, is that right? And let's see, I got the names here. Let me make sure I don't miss anybody. So my understanding, Reverend Darrell Fields, who's standing back there, was nice enough to do the invocation with us. Timmy Young, Gloria Wallace, and Jamel Payne. So we will meet right down here in front. And tonight we're going to do this different. All 7 of us are going to go down here and do this tonight because we think this is so important. So the 7 of us will meet you down there and we will do the proclamation. All 4 of you. Oh, Rick, yeah, Rick's here too. Yeah, Rick, come on up, Rick. We want everybody involved. How we do it with this many people, we're just gonna do it. It's gonna work out good. All righty, you guys can turn around because they'll be taking pictures and you guys would just crowd in like we're all friends.
Stripes on the picture.
Yeah. So anyway, blend in. All right. Cool. All right. So we do commemorate Juneteenth in Dunbar Heights Historic Neighborhood. Whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known annual observance commemorating the abolishment of slavery in the United States of America. The Juneteenth Independence Celebration dates back to June 19, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger led Union soldiers into Galveston, Texas. It was there that Union soldiers delivered the news that the Civil War had ended and enslaved Black Americans within any state were free. And whereas Juneteenth became a celebration of freedom, community, and culture, today Juneteenth takes on a symbol of pride in Black American experiences and ancestral roots. And whereas the Dunbar Heights Historic Neighborhood is home to a long-standing tradition of Shawnee's Black American heritage, and whereas the city of Shawnee seeks to observe this historic anniversary with the Dunbar Heights Historic Neighborhood and Shawnee's Black community in the spirit of camaraderie and equality for all citizens, and whereas the Juneteenth celebration embodies the Black ideals of freedom, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as they extend to all people. Now therefore, I, Ed Bolt, Mayor of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, by authority vested in me, do hereby complain the 7th day of June 2021 to commemorate Juneteenth in the Dunbar Heights Historic Neighborhood. So there we go, and I don't know which one of you wants to take this. There you go. You get it? All right. Very good. Thank you so much. Good to see you, friend. How are you, sir? Good to see you. Yes, absolutely. Tim? Mr. Young? Tim? There you go, back there. My understanding is maybe you'd like to talk just for a minute about Juneteenth and this weekend?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Mayor and council members. June 19th, we will be, of course, having our day of celebration. What we're gonna do, a day of recognition. Our program will start at 7 o'clock. It's gonna be at 414 East Main Street. Okay, and the program is going to be from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. However, activities will be going on all day with everything going on downtown. That's when we're going to do our special part of presentations. But, you know, things are going to be going on from 12 noon to who knows when. But we do thank the city. Want to have a special thank you to our Police Chief Wilson, who is always opening his heart up and always willing to share, keep things under control. But with the police force that we have today, people getting out the car, visiting with the citizens of the Shawnee, we just think it's great. We're going in the right direction. We appreciate you, appreciate all of you here, and thank you for serving our community.
Yeah, thank you so much. All righty, so item 5, this is really cool too. We got a presentation of Purple Heart City Plaque by Mitch Reed, Purple Heart Legislative Ambassador. So I believe Mr. Reed will make it. Is that, do we know what's he?
Mr. Mayor, it looks like he wasn't able to make it this afternoon.
Okay, well, we'll do that another time then. I know we had a proclamation not long ago about the Purple Heart. Very good. All righty, so item 6 then, consideration and possible action to approve the renewal of the contract with Central Oklahoma Community Action Agency, Central Oklahoma Transit System for fiscal year 2021-2022. And I think you're up, Chance.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, the Contract Review Committee has recommended that the City of Shawnee renew the contract in the amount of $75,000 for the fiscal year 21-22 with COTS. Staff would concur with the recommendation. We have no issues budgetarily. We can support that amount. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
No. Any questions up here? They provide a good service for us, help out a lot of folks.
And for the public's benefit, COTS is the Central Oklahoma Transit System that provides our on-demand transit service for the City of Shawnee. So that means it's a call-ahead service.
Yep. Very often it's for folks going to medical appointments.
I'll make a motion we approve.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll second.
All right, so Commissioner Weaver and Flood. Motion and second. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. So next up is item 7, consideration possible action to approve renewal of the contract with Safe Events for Families for fiscal year 2021-2022. So, Chance, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Commissioners, the Contract Review Committee has made a recommendation to the City Commission to renew the CEF contract for 21-22 for a period of 6 months beginning July 1, 2021 through December 31st of the same year, to reimburse for eligible expenses up to $40,000. In addition, they've recommended that the City Commission modify Section 3B to clarify how invoices are submitted for reimbursement. And the last piece is to modify Section 7 to remove the audit requirement and add a right of inspection by the city manager or the city manager's designee. The staff would recommend, because the events that Seth puts on for the city of Shawnee and for our constituency are of high benefit to the community, that we would staff would recommend a full year contract in the amount of $65,000 versus $40,000 for a partial year, and to include the other modifications to provide for right of inspection.
Questions or comments or?
I guess just a question.
Yes, sir.
Why are we going to go ahead and ask for the full year as opposed to the 6 months and then look at it in 6 months?
Mr. Commissioner, I think there is a concern that if we only had a half-year contract, that the events that would happen the latter half of their fiscal year, there would not be a place for those. So we want to ensure
Christmas parade, for instance, Christmas at the end of the year.
yes, sir, and the events that happen in the spring.
Okay.
Back anything over here?
I was on the contract review committee when that recommendation came down, and after thinking about it some more and looking at what they're doing, and I just don't think that's feasible, that 6 months, and we need to, like I said, I was one of them that made the recommendation, and I'm backtracking on that. It needs to be a full year, and I would like to say that coming out of the committee, that it needs to be the full year.
Okay. I was on that committee too, and I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I was just curious to know why now we're changing and looking for a full year, but that's fine.
Questions or anyone want to make a motion?
What was their, I don't remember their ask.
I believe it was 73, if I recall correctly.
So I think didn't they got 63 last year minus 10%? Is that right?
Sounds right. Ashley, do
Something
you
like that.
recall?
I know everybody took a little bit of a haircut last year. I think it was 63 minus 10% because we didn't know how COVID was going to impact things, which. So 65 would be a little more than what they thought.
Right.
With that then. She's still looking.
So for 2021, it was 56,700.
Mm-hmm.
And for 20,
Okay, if my computer will work. Yeah, 63 and 20.
And so last year they would have went up to like 90% of that. Was for, yeah, the reduction.
That's what we did.
Yeah. So 65 would be a little more than what they were getting last year.
I would suspect that events this year are going to be really, really heavily attended. I mean,
I believe events are going to be heavily attended also, and also costs are going to.
Costs are through the roof right now.
Costs are going to be more than what's expected from what I'm seeing on everything.
And can we make 73 work or 70 or how tied to the 65 are we?
We could probably make that work if need be, or, Mr. Commissioner, if the need arises as the year continues and they need additional funding, you can always make an amendment to the
revisit.
contract. Mhm.
Okay.
I prefer to see us do it that way than
Okay.
try to change it now.
But the 65 is for sure budget supported currently.
Okay.
Good? No questions, Benny? No. Okay. Anyone want to make a motion? Or?
Make a motion, we renew 65,000 this year.
For the year, 65 for the year, okay.
And that was, Commissioner Seagorn, that's inclusive of the
Inclusive
two
of
contractual changes with regard to the reporting.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Commissioner Seahorn's got a motion. Do we have a second anywhere?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Matthews. All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll call the question. And that passes 7-0. All righty, we've got one more, I believe. Item 8 is consideration and possible action to approve renewal of contract with Shawnee Forward for fiscal year 2021, 2022. And Mr. Allison is up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, the Contract Review Committee has recommended we approve the Shawnee Ford contract at the amount of $295,000. And in addition, they asked we strike section 1.6.c from the proposed contract, which is related to requiring open meetings of Shawnee Ford. Right. Today, we received the DA's position on open meetings, so staff would recommend that we do not strike section 1.6.c and approve at $295,000.
So do not strike.
Yes.
That, so it will remain
Remain an open meeting, yes, sir.
Okay, so that was received today, is that right?
That's correct. At 5:04 p.m.
Like
So I understand, so changing that we still are required to have open meetings?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir,
All right.
Mr. Commissioner, that's correct.
Okay. Questions, concerns? Oh, Mark has a question on his face, but no.
I'm good.
Let's
And I would clarify, Mr. Mayor, based on Mr. Morris's comment with regard to the effect of a legal opinion rendered by the district attorney. This was the city seeking guidance
Right.
from chief law enforcement
Right.
agent for the county,
Right.
not for an official
Right.
legal opinion.
Right.
But as the decision maker as with regard to any violations of Open Meetings Act or
Sure.
open records
Right.
violations, obviously his guidance is very important.
Right. And I don't think that's unusual to seek his guidance on matters like that at all.
Not historically with the
Yeah.
relationship between the city and the county.
Right.
So what was Shawnee Forward asking for? Not have open meetings?
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
There was a contractual requirement to follow the procedure under state law for open meetings and open records in the contract itself. They were requesting to strike that from the contract.
Yeah. So we got the opinion now legally that that shouldn't be done.
Yes.
So. Any other questions? So the recommended amount was $295,000 and then not to make that change. Staff. Anyone want to make a motion on the staff recommendation?
I'll make a motion to follow the recommendations of staff when it comes to the funding and the removal of the striking of the rules on the Open Meetings Act according to the opinion of our district attorney.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Flood.
I'll second it.
Thank you, sir. And a second from Commissioner Weaver. We will call the question. And motion passes 7-0. So we're up to item 9. Discussion and consideration of amendment number 1 to contract for design consultant services for the development and construction of Kids Space Park and Woodland Veterans Park with PDG Planning Design Group. And Mr. Allison is up again.
Yes.
Busy night.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, the PDG has been working on the design concepts for Kids Space and Woodland Park. This is the original piece that we approved to contract with PDG was for design services. This will expand those design services to move from conceptual to a final design that will allow us to move into construction bidding, where their specifications are provided during the bidding process, and then awarding of the bid, and then the construction administration once the bids are awarded to the winning contractor. So this moves that project from concept into the construction phase. And the increase is $307,500 for a total contract of $515,000.
I might add, I'm on the Parks and Recreation Committee, and did a lot of work go into this. We've got a design and plan of 2 wonderful parks. I mean, we're really getting bang for our dollar, and really excited if we can move forward on this step and really get closer to seeing those 2 parks. Kids Space, I'm afraid now it's almost at a point where it's not even safe, and it's just really, people aren't even.
We can't move fast enough.
Yeah, and that's true. And so I'm just saying, as a part of that committee that's been working hard in watching this develop, it's we've got 2 gyms that are really ready to be a part of our city. That'll be a great benefit.
As a father of little people, I remember whenever Kids Space came to be, and it was a sight to see, and to see that like anything that as age takes its toll on it, it's time to really put some intentionality back into that, because for the next generation of kids and families to enjoy it, I think it'd be a fantastic and really intentional way to show a lot of love and support to our younger families. So
Seeing those plans look really cool. A lot of neat stuff I didn't even know existed. That 40-yard dash thing.
It's cool.
That is really cool. I had no idea such a thing even existed. So that's really neat. Really neat. I'm glad we're in a position where hopefully we can move forward on that. I'd like to make a motion on this.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, sir. We have a motion from Mr. Weaver and a second from Mr. Seahorn. We will call the question. And that passes 7-0. Moving on to item 10. Discussion, consideration, approval of the Board of Potawatomi County Commissioners Interlocal Agreement Resolution number 2021-03 for reimbursement regarding the construction of an industrial access project along North Leo Avenue. And Mr. Barkheimer is here to see us tonight. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. So this is somewhat of a housekeeping item. On March 1st, you all approved a project agreement with ODOT for funding on an industrial access project over on North Leo Street, so right there near George Fisher. At that time, I told you that the Potawatomi County had also agreed to commit $25,000, and this item is essentially formalizing that understanding. On June 1st, the Board of County Commissioners approved the interlocal agreement for reimbursement on the North Leo Street project of up to $25,000. You all should have a hard copy of that agreement in front of you, so I apologize, that should have been attached to the agenda, but you should have a hard copy with you and for you to look at. And with that, staff recommends approval of the interlocal agreement, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Questions on it? You got any questions? I think it's kind of a housekeeping item more than anything at this point. I think we agree to take the money. Yeah. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
All right, so Matthews and Flood. And we will call the question. And that passes 7-0. All righty. Item 11, discussion and consideration of Streetery guidelines deferred from May 17, 2021. And Ms. Plain is here to see us tonight.
So, taking your feedback from the 17th meeting, we made a survey. The city of Shawnee made a survey. It was brief, 10 questions, 3-minute survey, and we gathered 930 responses from that survey. You have been provided all you need with the modifications that have been required, but right now I'm going to address something that should have been addressed 11 months ago. I am going to ask that everyone look back at the May 17th meeting where Commissioner Weaver interrupted me 14 times during the presentation of the Streetery item. I'm also going to ask you to look back at how many times Commissioner Salter had accused me of throwing items on the agenda. Please know that this treatment of anyone, our citizens, our employees, is not okay. And Chance, I have brought this to your attention and you did nothing. All of you sat silent for 11 months and did nothing. I am the most qualified city planner that this town has had. I hold a master's degree in urban design. I hold a certified floodplain management certificate from OFMA. I have an AICP from the American Planning Association, and I got research funded to get PhD that benefits our community. So I hope that we are creating a community that we're proud of, because I personally was embarrassed when I watched that last meeting back. I was very embarrassed. You all are provided all of the information that you need on the Streetery's item, but if you will excuse me, I am going to take the evening off from any further mistreatment.
With that, she's not here to hear it, but I will publicly apologize to her for any mistreatment that she feels from questions that I've generated and developed on my own. Never is it my intent to embarrass anybody. 14 times sure sounds like a lot of interruptions, and I really don't recall interrupting, but that's her perception, and I do publicly, those of you that are here, I apologize to her and through you, and I'm sorry that she feels, you know, she and I had a conversation Sunday about the Streetery. She worked very closely with me with my concerns. Gosh, I thought we were in really good stead. I actually have a private meeting with her on Thursday, so I don't know where this emotion has come from, but it's obviously there, and I apologize to her publicly for anything I've done and said. I know she's great at what she does. I appreciate what she brings to the city, and I just deeply apologize that her feelings have been hurt, and I don't ever intend, I think sometimes, guys, I come across as being argumentative when in fact I'm just trying to get answers of things that I don't understand. So just wanted to make that public statement. I wish she was here to hear it, but it's sincere, and I apologize to her and to any of you that need that apology.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so if we get back to the item at hand, we've got the Streetery's item to consider. As Ms. Blaine was saying, there was a survey that was put out by the city that got, I don't know, 900 and something responses, and as I remember, it was 80-something% in favor. And I know if you filtered it for downtown business owners, it was 60-something% in favor. I think all we're doing is giving people the opportunity, and that's all it is. The choice is whether they want to put tables out in front of their restaurant or coffee shop. If they want to do it out on the street, that's a possibility too. But there's a process for them to go through. I think there were some items that we all called for, and if I'm not mistaken, those are addressed in agenda item 11. And we'll, I'm sure, have more discussion on that. I'm sorry, and it'd be in 12. I think there was some modifications that were made there that were asked for. So I don't know what other discussion we want to have on that, but guys, it's open to discuss.
If I could start on that, one of the things that I asked Planning Director Blaine and the city manager as well, I had 2 objections, and my main objections have been made very clear. Parking, and have really felt like parking in downtown Shawnee has not been enforced, has been a real problem of all day parking backwards into parking places, which is illegal, parking in handicap spots. The police department has done a good job, I believe, in the last several weeks of at least enforcing handicap parking, and I understand some tickets have been issued. My concern is, and I've asked the city manager for assurance, I will support this proposal and the next proposal if we, one, post that we have 2-hour parking downtown. We have it posted on Bell, but it also applies to Main Street. If we post the 2-hour parking, if we notify the businesses and the public that it's 2-hour parking, that we give some lead time to where we give warnings, if that's the case, until people understand, excuse me, that we'll start enforcing that. And then our day-long parkers who are taking up valuable parking spaces for the businesses downtown, that will satisfy my objections to the parking issue. So Planning Director Blaine has agreed that that's a reasonable request. City Manager has agreed. And with those reasons, with those commitments, then I'm going to support both of these proposals. That has been my main objection, and I've said it again and again. It's over the parking situation and listening to the merchants downtown who didn't feel they were being listened to with their concerns. So that is where I am, and I will support this proposal under those conditions.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you vote up or down on a question, so I don't know how we put a condition on it like that. I mean, that's an administrative thing and something we work out with the police department.
And I'm just saying that's the reason that I'll be supporting this, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Is that we'll be enforcing laws and ordinances we have on the books.
And you know, as it is right now, I know that's not enforced, but those a lot of them are business owners parking right up in front of their front door.
That's correct.
And that's basically a business decision they're making, that they're valuing their you know, ability to park at the front door over their customers' ability to park there. And you question whether that's a good business decision or not. I don't know. That's up for them to make.
I think we probably either have a 2-hour parking limit or we remove it. We do one of the two. We either enforce what we have on the books or we remove it.
I had a couple of questions. One, I think I'm happy to support the concept. I think it brings, I think we saw from the survey and from I can't speak to the commissioner's emails, but my emails and communications with the citizens were overwhelmingly positive. I do think we need to consider, I drove Maine, there's a chance we talked today, it is a 2-hour zone, but there's no signage.
Sure.
So I also don't think it's fair to enforce it when there's no signage, because if somebody came from out of town,
they'd have no idea.
You'd have no idea. So I think
it's my understanding when the streetscape was constructed, the 2-hour signs weren't replaced or put back.
I think what Director Blaine put in, I believe it was a 2% cap in which we would issue on parking. I think that's really reasonable. There were some comments. I read every comment in the survey. There were some, and there's been about side parking lots and lighting. I'd just like some, I think that's a great idea. I would like some clarity on, say, some of those lots. Are they privately owned, city owned? Well, I think we just need to look at that, because it's easy to say we should have, if it's privately owned, I would think lighting is the responsibility of the owning party, and the city couldn't just go in and put lights on a private parking lot.
The majority of the downtown parking lots north and south of Main Street are city owned.
Okay, so we could look at budgeting something like that.
I believe most of those do have parking or lights for the parking.
Okay. So we can look at that and what that might look like, and I was wanting some clarity on what we owned and
Yeah, I
what that
think
could look
they
like.
all do have lighting. Some of them are, I haven't,
Some need some
I have
work,
to go out
but-
there when it's dark. I don't know, if all of them work or not. I know some of them are really old. They look like something out of the Jetsons or something. Some of them do, those little big round ones.
But I think, I would support looking at something like that that would improve the overall condition and things like that. So, with that, I'm good.
Commissioner Matthews, in my remarks, I did say that we need to post.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
no,
did,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify
Yeah, no,
that
no.
I believe in fairness. of the public.
No.
And through discussions with the police chief, we can't begin enforcement other than people violating the handicap parking spaces
Right.
until we do post.
No, I'm
To
sorry,
our
I was
parking,
agreeing
yeah.
with you.
Okay,
That,
okay.
I agree we need it, but we've got to take our responsibility that we didn't get those signs back up, so. There were 2 signs, I drove Main Street today just to double check it, there were 2 signs that were completely faded.
Yeah.
I thought that might have been them.
Yeah.
There's no writing on them.
There was one down in front of that building that I owned for a few years that, it was there enough when I first got there that I knew what it said, but, I don't know whether you can read it now or not,
Right.
so, I don't know, but they are in bad shape, some of them. So, any other questions, comments? Anyone want to make a motion on item, what are we up to, 10?
11.
Oh, I'm sorry, 11. Got behind myself.
I'll make a motion we approve item 11.
Yeah. And I'll second.
10?
It's
11, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's my bad, I'm sorry. So, Mr. Matthews, and who was the second come from this before I? Okay, so we will call the question then. And motion passes 7-0. So 12 addresses I think some of the questions we brought up. So discussion and consideration of resolution supporting the adoption of a parklet streetery policy allowing the temporary conversion of the sidewalk or 3 or less curbside parking spaces into a platform space with pedestrian amenities. Parklets offer a place to stop, sit, and rest while in Shawnee, while streeteries offer a place to conduct commerce in the right-of-way. So, a chance you may be able to answer any of the questions or address any of that. I don't know in Ms. Blaine's absence.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this is a resolution it's essentially a rewrite of the previous resolution that was intended for parklets.
Right.
This adopts streeteries into the streetery guidelines into the resolution with the parklets.
Right, and I know one of the concerns, and Dan, you brought this up when we discussed it the first time, was, the initial thing when we did the parklets, you weren't able to conduct commerce out there, and I always thought that was kind of an odd thing. But this does allow them to do that. So if someone wanted to send someone out there, their wait staff or deliver food up there, that'd be fine under all of this. So I think this addressed a lot of the concerns that we had when we first discussed it. So.
I might say same applies on this as my reason for supporting this proposal is that we're going to deal with enforcing parking once we get it posted and once we get the public aware.
I do want to note too, I had a conversation with Chance today and actually with Director Blaine about streeteries deal with only the restaurants.
Right.
But examining what, if anything, we need to do so that other businesses on Main Street could conduct, whether it's a sidewalk sale or have some sort of presence, because, there may be a business, I may not even know what they offer, but if they were able to have some kind of commerce outside, I could see it from the streetery or where I was walking by, that would perhaps, and really I was kind of spurred by the thought of taking Commissioner Weaver's comments, are we being fair? And these only dealt with restaurants. So is there something we could do, or would we even need to act to make street commerce available for all Main Street businesses and what that might look like? So I'm happy to support this, but I would like us to look at that as well.
So would it be And I'm asking just your opinion, Chance, would it be easier to handle the other types of businesses separately, like in a future meeting, or is there something we could do to modify this that would allow?
We could bring the guidelines back before you to modify.
Okay.
For commerce.
Because
That'd probably be the
I
easiest way
think
to
that'd
do
be
it.
great, because technically I think now if a person puts stuff out on the sidewalk, that's probably
Sure.
not truly legal. I don't think we're take anybody to jail over that.
Right.
But I mean, I think allowing them that opportunity, I think would be a
Yeah,
good
if
thing.
if an art gallery wants to put something
Yeah, I
out.
mean,
Right.
it's a choice of that business.
And if we start to allow that, it might be more beneficial to convert
Right.
this from a resolution to an ordinance.
Yeah.
So you have more legal teeth if
I
you need
agree.
it
So
for
maybe you
enforcement
could bring
purposes.
that back to us, fairly
Absolutely.
quickly, and we could, because I think if we're gonna do something like that, this is the time of year to do it, because this is when people are gonna be outside.
And the point of all of this is to make downtown a thriving, help where we
Absolutely.
can.
Absolutely.
To generate traffic, and so it's just a thought I had this morning, and
I think it's a good thought.
wanted to pass it along.
All righty. Any questions on item 12? I'm gonna make a motion on item 12.
I'll make a motion to approve item 12.
Second.
Okay, that was Mark, wasn't it?
Yep.
All righty. So motion from Matthews, second from Mr. Seahorn. All righty, we'll call the question.
Mr. Mayor, I'll read that
Oh,
resolution
sorry.
title into the record briefly. A resolution supporting the adoption of parklet streetery policy allowing the temporary conversion of the sidewalk or of 3 or less curbside parking spaces into a platform or space with pedestrian amenities. Parklets offer a place to stop, sit, and rest while in Shawnee, while streeteries offer a space to conduct commerce in the right-of-way.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that. All righty, now we will call the question. And that passes 7-0. So you're up to number 13. Discussion and consideration of resolution to approve a project maintenance, financing, and right-of-way agreement with Oklahoma Department of Transportation, ODOT, regarding the MacArthur Street Sidewalk Project, Shawnee MacArthur Bike Ped Trail Project number TAP3-2996 004 TP, state job number 3299604. Mr. Barkheimer, it's your turn again.
Yes, sir. So, as the mayor just said, this is a project agreement with ODOT. It's for a TAP grant for the MacArthur Street Sidewalk Project. And I know that most of you guys are probably aware of. It's been around for a little while.
Right.
And the project scope includes new sidewalk on the south side of MacArthur, essentially from Harrison to Bryan, but there is some existing sidewalk there at First United Bank and at that Windermere residential subdivision. So essentially it'll be from First United Bank property to the Windermere subdivision.
Right.
Current construction estimate for the project is $738,178, and this TAP grant would cover up to $425,810 of that cost. So with that, staff would recommend approval of the agreement, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
A couple questions. Was that going to be funded, the rest of it funded with the Avitas grant?
We have a partial grant from Avias to
So that's
assist in
what
part of
you're
our
talking about,
matching.
right.
And then we have 80% funded through ODOT, and then the remainder will be the city of Shawnee.
Okay.
And just for clarification, it's up to 80%.
Right.
So the construction cost currently is $738,178, and the up to amount for ODOT, we've been granted up to $425,810. So if you do the math on that, that's not truly 80%. So if our construction cost comes down, ODOT's percentage would increase, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And it would be up to 80%.
Okay.
So.
All right, and then the other question, in public comments, the question was raised about the sidewalks, and once we widen MacArthur, I'm sure it's being designed to where.
Yeah, so it's currently being designed at the 50-foot right-of-way line. So the right-of-way there is actually, the existing right-of-way is actually at about 33 feet. We have some plats that it kind of does like that in, but we're putting it at 50 foot. So it'll be wide enough that, I'm not saying that we won't have to mess with it at all ever in the future. That's can't make a blanket statement, but it does have future development in mind.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I remember we discussed that.
As far south as we can.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
The sidewalk there at First United will have to be redone. It's not wide enough for a bicycle. It's only 5 foot.
I think we may have to look at it and do a 6-foot addition to, or remove and replace in the same spot.
Probably the same thing there at the housing addition too.
I thought that was 6 foot, but I'm probably
It's
mistaken.
5.
Is it 5? Okay.
Mine and Darren are 6, but it's 5.
Okay. Any other questions?
It'd be a good deal to connect the bicycle to the Bryan Street. So
Yeah, it would,
it'd be
wouldn't it?
nice to have.
Yeah, well done.
Do ride a bicycle to work.
There you go.
Coast down the hill.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to
All righty.
approve the resolution.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
All right. And Seahorn. All right, and you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution approving a project maintenance, financing, and right-of-way agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for the MacArthur Street Sidewalk Project, Shawnee MacArthur Bike Ped Trail.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have motion and a second, and we've been moved to, so we will vote. And that passes 7-0. So item 14 is discussion and consideration of resolution establishing a temporary moratorium on the granting of new business permits and licenses requested under Chapter 8, Article 8, medical marijuana of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Shawnee. So I think, Joe, are you up on this one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This comes before you upon suggestion from several areas of staff with regard to some developing situations, and I think Mr. San Pedro addressed those in citizen comments. We have some state legislation aimed at limiting density and the number of licenses that exist across the various platforms of the medical marijuana industry, whether that's dispensary processing or grow operations. As this board is well aware, over the year and a half, 2 years that we've been dealing with this, the administrative costs to the city have really gone up as the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority and the state legislature have continued to develop and evolve those regulations to the point where we've tried to be consistent with what the actual administrative cost is, but the concern that some of the state level density restrictions may ultimately reduce or limit the number of licenses available has seen an influx, which is referenced in the actual resolution of these applications, which basically means that the planning department, fire marshal, building and code enforcement are spending inordinate amounts of time on license applications that may never actually receive a state license. So that was the genesis of why this is being brought before you. There are certainly pros and cons to be considered. You'll read in the resolution body itself that we have 19 licensed dispensaries. We have 17 pending applications. One point of clarification I would like to make is that from the legal standpoint, we don't intend for this to impact those pending applications. Those have been submitted prior to any action of this commission. So if this commission were to go forward with that, it would not have an impact on the processing of those pending applications. What it would do is send a message to anybody who is thinking about applying that has not yet expended the time and the resources into that endeavor, that because of potential future density restrictions that may come from the state level, we are hitting the pause button, so to speak. The question I've been asked from multiple sources, does this insulate the city from legal action? My answer to that would be the same as it is with anything that you guys do. No, anybody can sue for any reason. We'll allow the courts to play that out, but staff has vetted this and believe that a very intentional application of moratorium, specifically with regard to the pending applications, would be appropriate under this body's health, safety, and welfare, and just out of an abundance of caution with regard to the expenditure of municipal resources. But those are kind of the high points. I think it's difficult question that's posed before you, I'd be happy to answer any questions to the extent I can.
I've got one. I've
All
doing
right.
a lot of talking tonight, but is there an end to our moratorium?
That's certainly something that could be placed in there. It was not, there wasn't one placed in the draft that's been circulated, but obviously we could amend by interlineation, or you guys could give feedback if this is something you're interested in, and we could bring another resolution before you at a
I
subsequent.
just wasn't real sure when we do a moratorium if we needed to have an end time or if it's just until we decide to review it again.
As we've put in the language, it is a temporary moratorium. This is not intended to be permanent in any way, shape, or form, but we did not put a termination date on it. But that's certainly something that the commission can do.
Okay.
I don't know, we've never been through this before.
Does it help us legally if we put a date on it? Because then we could extend it rather
Certainly.
than letting someone else define what is or isn't temporary. If
Absolutely.
we get sued under that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that absolutely.
So if we
Commissioner.
put December 31st of 2021, December, we could revisit and decide to extend it based on what the state legislature has done or hasn't done. I mean, we could.
Yes, but it's
decide-
unlikely we would see action within that time period.
True.
Because they won't go back into session until
February.
So maybe we should put next year, if we're gonna put a date, maybe we should consider the end of next year's legislative term.
I would make that motion if y'all are agreeable that we do that, say, 1st of June 2022, which would be the end of the legislative session. If they do take action, then we'll know what position we might need to take or can take as a city
Or if they haven't, we would have the option to.
to either extend it or, I would make that motion.
I would think we could revisit that and extend it at any time in between there, couldn't we?
Mr. Mayor, not only could you revisit it and extend it anytime, but you could revisit and terminate the moratorium at any time.
Absolutely. I mean, not real dissimilar to when we were dealing with the mask mandate. I mean, very, very similar.
And I would state too that I think particularly within the planning department, there's an intention to really vet the situation. Obviously, this is a quick kind of pause button, but then to go back and vet the situation and see if there's a less restrictive way to go about addressing the concerns that are being raised here, so that it's very likely that staff may bring something before you after they've had the opportunity to review that data.
Okay.
I press my motion for actually May 30 days, that's September, April, June, and November, May 31st as a deadline. And I make a motion that we add that to an end language.
So termination, May 31st, 2022. Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so Beaver and Matthews. All right. Mr. City Attorney, I think you're up.
Yeah. So we have a resolution establishing temporary moratorium on the granting of new business permits and licenses requested under Chapter 8, Article 8, Medical Marijuana of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Shawnee, with amendment by interlineation to add a provision for the automatic termination of said moratorium on May 31st of 2022.
Alrighty. So we have a motion and a second. on
Joe,
14.
could you read that, just a word with amendment by interlineation?
To add
Okay.
a termination date of May 31st, 2022.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So we have a motion and a second. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. So push on to item 15. Discussion and consideration of an ordinance relating to Shawnee Lake ordinances, amending and providing for repealer of various sections of Article 2 of Chapter 16 of the Code of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, and creating Division 9 of Article 2 of Chapter 16 of the Code of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, providing for severability providing for codification, and declaring an emergency. So, thank you for that chance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, staff has been working on a project to bring our lake standards current with not only the updated state laws, but in addition to design a code of ordinances that is intentional with the types of activities that are occurring at Shawnee Lake. And I'm going to speak kind of in two parts about this. The first part is about the changes and the more substantive changes we're making, and then the second part is about the commercial framework that we've designed in the latter part of this ordinance. Some of the things we've changed, just broadly speaking, we've changed some things around camping areas, some things with boating activities where we've had some definitions to this set of ordinances. I'm going to use just some examples. I'm going to use intoxication limits. State code or state laws used to reflect a 0.1. We are now changing this to 0.08 to reflect how current state law reads. We've added some things like we've allowed glass in the camping areas. We're now no longer allowing glass. Let me use as far as hunting laws and things like that, the means and limits that we're applying that are applicable to hunting, we've changed to reflect what state law currently reads. Swimming. Our code of ordinances previously reflected 8 years and younger had to have the proper life vest. The state law is now 12, so we've now updated the code to reflect that. As far as so most of this is just to be congruent with state statute. The second half is the creation of this commercial lake zone.
Right.
The reason this has come up in several occasions is we have people approach the city from time to time with the intention they say, hey, can we lease part of your lake or around your lake other than the cabin sites? And for economic development purposes, how can we do that? And currently we don't have a framework for that. So I worked with the city attorney and we designed a framework to allow the leasing of commercial space, but intentional commercial spaces. This would not affect the cabin areas. In fact, we've excluded that specifically from this ordinance. So this would allow us to survey our public use areas and publish those on our website, other mediums, and then allow for if constituents, commercial developers have proposals for these areas, they can submit a proposal to staff. We can vet the proposal, have them provide the appropriate specs, plans, financing instruments they're going to use to make this proposal a reality. And then we would have to send this before the Planning Commission. So that would be one public meeting. And that public body would make a decision based on staff's input and the information provided. That recommendation would then come before this body for a final approval. So like I mentioned, this is a framework for commercial development. This is not a commercial development of any sort at this point, but in order to be able to allow for commercial development, we have to have a mechanism in place for this body to vet those opportunities in an equal fashion for anyone who's interested. And so with that, I'll open it up for questions and concerns.
Can I start again?
Go ahead.
I think you explained that very well. I've had many of these constituents contact me, and I couldn't explain it nearly as well as you just did. I think you answered a lot of their concerns. However, I'm going to ask when the appropriate time is that we remove that and defer that section of the commercial area to the next meeting, and the city manager has agreed to meet with us, anyone who has concerns, and better explain and specifically hopefully resolve the concerns that the public seems to have. And the main thing, I don't think is that they don't trust the city. It's just this was new on Friday and they've just learned. And I've tried my best as the Ward 2 commissioner to explain. Again, you did a great job explaining, but I promised that I was going to try to ask that we defer that section and do it at another meeting and have the input from you. So.
Sure.
So, but and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, even if all we're doing is saying there's a possibility to do those types of activities out there to allow businesses to come in, but before that happened, they'd still have to go to a planning commission hearing, and there'd be a lot of public input on that, and then they would have to come in front of this body, and then we'd have the opportunity to have a lot more discussion there. So I don't know why we delay it.
I'm just asking members, as a courtesy to the Ward 2 Commissioner who has constituents who are concerned, to allow us to defer that section to another meeting.
But we don't have to. We can vote on it tonight if we choose.
That's correct. That's correct.
And just as a point of clarification, there is one additional step that I think is important, which is the very first thing that would have to occur if this were passed is for the city through the planning department to actually identify proposed property that would then have to be rezoned, because everything around the lake is A1.
Right.
And so the city would have to administratively seek a rezoning, which would follow the same procedure as anyone within the community that owns property, which would require the notices to the adjacent property owners, which would then allow for public hearing with regard to whether or not it was even rezoned, which would be the first step to triggering an application process that the city manager discussed.
And upon even entertaining a rezone, we would have to have those identified areas surveyed.
Really?
So
I mean, there's
to have
still
a legal basis.
a lot of steps,
Absolutely.
a lot of opportunities to
Absolutely.
have all those discussions. And it seems like if we hold off just to have, another discussion in between, I mean,
I don't think it would be burdensome, but that'll be my request at the proper time to make a motion that we defer that section until a future meeting. It could be the next meeting or a future meeting. I just think these people have a right to have an opportunity for understanding of what we're doing. And I represent not only everyone in Shawnee, but Ward 2 residents, and I want to give them an opportunity to get their concerns addressed.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm happy to do so.
I have a question. One, I have a few questions, mostly because I know nothing about kayaking. And the gentleman, I'm sorry.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, Mr. Kennedy brought a lot of things that I think are really valid for us to consider.
Absolutely.
I think Commissioner Weaver brings, I don't have a problem with what you're bringing. I see both sides of it. We're not really doing anything tonight by making it possible. But this maybe has to do, I was going to put in my comments, but it seems like maybe we could talk about it now. While I was researching this general concept, I came across something, and I think we've seen it maybe play out with the Streeteries a little bit, that perhaps we would consider. I believe it was, I forgot to write it down if it was 2017 or 2018, Oklahoma City instituted a policy where the commission would consider for 30 days economic development proposals, meaning they'd be introduced at one commission meeting, like basically just as an agenda item, like almost like when we acknowledge something, we acknowledge that this is coming.
So discussion only, as a survey.
Yeah, in that 30 days, there is a public workshop, which I think is similar to what you're requesting for, instead of just a meeting of just Ward 2, it could be in here, like anybody that's interested, somewhere in that intervening. And maybe 30 days might not work for us. Maybe we want to do 15, where we could put it from one meeting to another. There's some kind of workshop, and then it's voted on potentially, or maybe we continue to work on it.
Yeah.
It was attractive to me.
Yeah, I like that.
I think it protects us. It protects staff. The issue to me is we've got to do it across the board. Like, if it's an economic, it can't be. I'm not singling this out, but it can't be on the lake when we're going to delay it, but on the downtown when we're going to vote. Like, I think we need some kind of. I read it this afternoon. I remember hearing about it a few years ago. I just had the thought, I was going to mention in comments, but maybe, it seems like it might apply here, especially since you consider or brought up a meeting. Maybe it's something we want to take a look at.
I think that both what, if we were to move forward, we could still do what Mr. Weaver's saying. I think they could still meet with you and explain you know, all of those things. I don't know that we'd have to put it off to have that meeting. I'm sure you guys could put that, because it doesn't sound like anything's gonna happen here as far as like a commercial venture out there real quick, probably. So I would think if you guys were able to get together in the next couple of weeks, you could probably, you know, satisfy both sides of that, I would think.
And honestly, I came into the meeting tonight, I didn't want to defer the item, but I think we also have work to do on the first section regarding kayaking. I couldn't make a, like, considering and learning about the changes requested by Mr. Candidate, I couldn't make a motion, like, because I couldn't repeat it. Motion striking this, like.
Well, I think what he was suggesting.
And it may just be that I'm not very smart. That's
no, it's not that at all. I know better than that. I think all he was suggesting is we don't make our boating laws any more restrictive than the state, and I agree with that.
I mean, I agree with that too, but I wouldn't know how to make a motion. There were so many different in this section and this section. I mean.
Because I mean, I know legally you can be on a kayak after dark if you lit properly, and the state rules tell you what that should be, and I'm sure those came directly from the Coast Guard. So, I mean, I think that stuff is there. Now, how can we sort through all that tonight? I don't know.
Well, we can. The good news about these meetings is there's no time limit.
There's no time limit. We've had some like that.
Yeah. To be honest, I was made aware of some of the comments from the group here representing kayakers at the lake.
Right.
So I did go through and I try and identify at least the points within the ordinance that there was would be the subject of discussion. And so I feel like I could lead us through that in an organized manner. Whether or not that leads to a motion or otherwise, I don't know, but I do think we could walk through it in a somewhat organized manner if that is the will of the commission. Obviously, deferral is on the table as well.
I don't mind walking through it.
Well, I don't either. I wasn't prepared to read that discussion.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think if he's done some work on that already, I mean,
Joe,
I bet he could help us with that.
Did you modify 16-22, 16-225, part 2, a person may not, and strike not? Was that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Commissioner Rutherford?
16-225.
2.
Part 2.
May not. No, however, I believe the way I addressed the concern that was raised in comments was through the definition section, specifically excluding trolling motors under 10 horsepower and kayaks from the definition of motorized personal watercraft.
Unless I'm reading that incorrectly, a person may not operate. Should not be in there? Should that be?
Can't operate.
Cannot. You may operate.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, you are correct. Yeah. Good. I just did it.
Okay.
So
and then to eliminate the shore limits and nighttime to follow state guidelines is pretty straightforward.
Based on the current read of the ordinance, after sunset, there would be no shore limit.
Well,
The shore limit is in effect from sunrise to sunset, according to 218.
yes.
yeah. So right now, the way it reads is motorized watercrafts may be operated upon the lakes, and they shall operate within the general area designated by the chief of police or designee. When such motorized watercrafts are operated upon the lakes, they shall remain a distance of 300 feet from the bank and 100 feet from other watercraft. That's
So what we would need to do there, if Commissioner Rutherford's amendment would be to eliminate the time restrictions and the distance restrictions, would be then to specifically accept kayaks being allowed to operate within that 300-foot buffer. I think that would be perfect.
I thought it was already not, is it not already, I mean, if they're lit,
Under the safety guidance, yes, sir, that's correct.
it's addressed there.
After hours, they can operate as long as they have a hand lantern that projects a
so
white
that
light.
doesn't- so that does not need to be modified. It's already
It's
there.
already there.
It's already there, yeah.
Okay.
But that restriction does exist as
During
far
the
as
day.
shoreline from sunrise to sunset
Right.
presently. So if it's the will of the commission to modify that, that will need to be addressed.
Right.
The shoreline distance.
Right. That's only during the day.
Ed, you don't want to have to measure how far from shore you are, do you?
No? Don't. Can't imagine why they'd matter on kayak. Or
Just a suggestion.
feet, yeah.
How do we take the limits off of how far from shore, I guess is what I'm saying.
We just eliminate that particular portion. And if you guys would prefer, you could, I mean, the issues that were raised were the shoreline distance, the sunrise and sunset, which I think we've addressed. Which also leads into clarification of night kayaking. There was discussion raised with regard to the definitions. I will inform you guys that those definitions were based upon Oklahoma state law definitions, not Coast Guard. You may choose to look at Coast Guard and determine that you like those better. But I think the only hole we have would be with relation to trolling motors on kayaks that would need to be addressed if that's something that you guys would like to do. And then I was made aware, like Commissioner Matthews today, that there are lots of different kinds, including pedal kayaks.
Yep.
And so we've addressed
Seen 'em.
paddlecraft. We have not necessarily addressed pedalcraft, which goes back to some of the definition issues that Mr. Canada was alluding to. So again, it's going to take some time to do this, or we would be happy to kind of take your general conversation points and discussion points and bring you back kind of a red line version with those modifications for consideration at the next meeting.
Well, that would address my concerns, and having the public having an opportunity to have some comments on it. I wouldn't ask that we remove that section if we defer the entire thing and come back with the words.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, staff recommend at this point with the comments, the public comments we've had this afternoon.
Right.
Let's defer this.
Okay.
Until a
just
future
till the
meeting,
next
so we can
meeting.
incorporate the appropriate language and
So-
take another look at this.
Proper way then to be asked just for a future meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
I would make that motion.
okay, thank you, sir.
I'll second that.
All righty, thank you. So,
Do this tomorrow.
but you won't need to read if we're gonna, if
That's
we're-
correct.
the motion is to defer. Okay. So we have a motion and a second to defer to a future meeting. And that passes 7-0, so we will visit that again. All righty, so item 16. Consider bids, Whitaker Street rehabilitation, easy for me to say, project number 20 SHAW WHITST award. So Mr. Barkheimer is back.
Yes, sir. So we opened bids on this project back on May 17th and deferred to a future meeting to allow staff time to review the bids, and staff and our consultant engineer who's here tonight reviewed the bids, checked with some references, and now recommend awarding the bid, the contract to Wynn Construction Company. Wynn was the low bidder of the 4 bids we received at $565,405. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Questions? No? I'm glad to see this moving forward.
Let's get started.
Yeah, really. So when we get started?
ASAP.
ASAP. I like it. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Flood has a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so Mr. Flood and Mr. Seahorn have motion and second, so we will call the question. And it passes 7-0. New business.
Mr. Mayor, no new business.
No new business. All right. Commissioners' comments. Let's start with Mr. Matthews. We'll go that way.
All right. Well, I already talked about my economic development proposal idea. I'd like for us to have further discussion about that. I'm really excited to get to participate in the public transit group as we drove around and looked at possibilities for that, and very excited about that. Appreciate Mr. Gilbert coming out. Encourage everyone, whether you're attending or volunteering, there's a place for everyone at the IFYR. That's been a big part of my growing up in this community, and getting to go to that, and lots of good memories out there. So let's keep that as a great event for our community. I really enjoyed, Mr. Mayor, thank you for including all of us in the Juneteenth recognition. I'm really proud of our staff for bringing that around, and Mr. Mayor, for you. And that's a really significant event for our community, and would encourage all of us to participate in that event when it comes around. And, you know, my faith tells me that we need to do things in words and in deeds. And tonight we did some things in words, and I would encourage all of us to do things, take the next step, and may our deeds be those that are inclusive and make this a community that has opportunity for everyone, and looks to make sure that if we're growing needs to include all of us and opportunities for everyone. So I'm really excited and think this is a great step for our community to flourish. And this was we've made mistakes, and it's a great time for us to all grow as a community and grow together. And so thank you to staff and the mayor, and I look forward to being involved in those events.
I too would like to thank Randy and Suzanne. They've been tireless workers with the Expo Center and with the cause of young people in the events. And they are not the ones. I have had it brought to my attention of concern that the commitment that we, the city, made that the grounds would be ready by time of the rodeo. And I communicated with the city manager. He assures me that we're on track for doing those things. They have worked with, I guess, Mr. Jernigan, I believe is his name.
Jurgen.
Yes, Jurgen. To identify things that needed to be done. So I trust the city manager's judgment on that, that he says that the things will be done. And so it's looking forward to the facility getting the improvement through the years that we've neglected, and hopefully get back on track with our repairs at the Expo Center with the hopefully it may be a change in the future, but where we get it back to where we're really proud of the Expo Center. And we have great volunteers that have made a lot happen, and it takes a lot of volunteers, and the city as a partnership. Lake residents, I feel strongly, Ward 2 is my ward. I would hope that nobody up here would be critical of the fact that I'm here to defend the views of those people, not only the people throughout Shawnee, but specifically my ward. And those concerns have been raised to me. You heard some of them tonight, and I heard a lot of them over the weekend. I think they're legitimate, and I think any time that I asked my fellow commissioners to allow me the courtesy for us to have more time to raise an issue that shouldn't be questioned. It can be disagreed with, but I'm really surprised that there was a question of my willingness to ask the people to have a little bit more time to slow down and answer some questions. I believe I work hard for the people out there. We've got problems, but the city, you guys know the city's gotten out there with bulldozers, gotten out there with gravel. There's a lot of work to do, but Brad and his guys have been fighting the rain and what we have, and I've heard a lot of appreciation from people from seeing that we are out there making the effort, and hopefully, you know, weather holds out, and we've got that great grader, and I've seen it working, and I'm really proud that it's there. I think probably the final thing I want to say, and I'm not going to probably talk about it again, but I sincerely apologize for the emotion of Planning Director Blaine. I don't understand it, but I'm going to acknowledge it and I'm going to own it. And again, any of you that have positions of how I've been or whatever, I never want to put anybody in a position to feel threatened by my questions, by my positions, particularly up here, because I'm not up here to try to question anybody's motives. I may not agree with what they're doing, and there's been quite a few things that the planning director has brought up before us that I've not agreed with. But I think my job, I know my job, is to respond to those things, to ask the questions, to get the answers, and try to work toward developing a good plan. So I don't want to say it again. I'm just going to say it again for her sake and for anybody up here that may be troubled by the way that I've communicated with her. And let's just leave it at that. And I think we can all work together. That's what my hope is on this commission. That's why I ran for office in the first place. And I'm going to continue to do that as long as I'm up here. So I appreciate you all, the attendance tonight, not only Lake residents, but residents. It's just great to see people in the audience that care enough about our community to come up here, state their position, and watch us do our work. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
I would first like to acknowledge the amazing citizens who came today to speak their minds and let us know of things that they were struggling with and concerned with. I appreciate that always. Some of the best conversations and most intentional work comes after those conversations, and because of those conversations and because of your strength to stand up and say, hey, I think there's something we need to do more, or we need to be more intentional about. I believe that we're on the right path for some good things to happen. So thank you all for doing that. I know it's not easy, especially if you feel like you may be going against what other people are doing. I don't want to continue to bring something up but I need to also publicly apologize to Ms. Blaine because of knowing some of the way that she was, some of the comments that she was struggling with, and not being more intentional about trying to help make a pathway there. I know Mr. Weaver, and I don't know him well, but I believe there's a lot of good in his questions, but also there might not have recognized some of the things that he was saying and how they were coming across. And I know that sometimes when we don't recognize those things, it's really easy for us to overlook them and not be intentional about our words and not do things the way that we would had those been brought to our attention. I apologize for not being more helpful in that, and knowing that maybe with some intentional conversations, what happened today might not have happened the way that it did. And again, I apologize, Ms. Blaine, for not doing more to help that situation. I am beyond proud of our city for acknowledging the Juneteenth celebration and the Dunbar Heights Association. In working with Ward 3, much like Mr. Weaver talked about, loving and to work and fight for and help the people of his ward to have the best that they can have. I have grown so much to love the people of my ward, and some of my amazing, most favorite people were in the room tonight, and some of them are still here. And I'm really proud of us as a city for taking the time to acknowledge something that's so important to such an important group of our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. Thank you, city city staff for helping make that happen. I think that was really long overdue. Gosh, I believe we have a lot of amazing things going on in our city, and I believe that often the conversations and the questions, they're tough and sometimes they're hard, but I'm glad we're having these. And I hope that we can continue to have the tough conversations. I hope that we can continue to have input from you as citizens, because if we don't hear from you, then we can't do our best to make your voices known. So please keep doing that. Please keep reaching out. And thank you for being here, and appreciate you, and I love this city, and I love the people in it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Travis.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Travis touched on the subject, mentioned it, brought it up. After last meeting, I was embarrassed at the way staff was treated, spoken to. I made that comment to several after the meeting. I felt like our planning director was publicly berated by a member of this commission, and I'm embarrassed at myself that I sat here like a bump on a log and let it happen. And I want to apologize to Director Blaine and to everyone here that I didn't speak up at the time. We need to be kind to each other to keep things on a good path. We've got a lot of good going on in Shawnee, and then we get all this effort spent on negativity. Put some of this effort in something positive. Look what'll come out of it if you do something positive. If you have questions, come and ask. If you have questions about Ward 4 Commissioner's resignation or residency, come ask. There's no secret here. So put some effort in things that are positive, and let's keep things going in a good direction.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Seahorn.
I'll reinforce kind of what everybody down the line has talked about. Rebecca, I feel bad for her. I think, some of us should have stood up and, kind of cooled the issue a little bit. She is extremely well qualified. She's really good at what she does. She's fair with everything. And I feel really bad for her, and hopefully, on our end as a city, it's a huge loss to us if she's got to go elsewhere. So, I hate that. I hate it's come to a head like this, and I hate she was upset enough to do what she did. It took a lot of guts on her end to stand up to us. But yeah, we should have stood up for her. I mean, that's kind of part of a team. We're all in it together. We're all in, trying to make the city better, and we need to be on the same page, not fighting against each other. Glad to see the Whitaker project's fixing to get underway. I think that's a big thing. The sidewalk, I know that's going to be a mess, but it'll be a neat addition to the community to be able to run, because really bicycling, walking back down through there is just, or even the guys that run. I mean, I live out there and they're running down the street and jogging off in the grass, and you know, I can't believe there's not more twisted ankles and injuries just from that. Randy, if you need any help at the expo, I mean, just let us know. You know, we want to make a big event. I know you guys have put a lot of time and effort for years and years, so we want it to succeed because it's good for the kids, you know, which is ultimately what we're all fighting for, and good for the community. That's about all I got. Benny?
Thank you, sir.
I just appreciate everybody showing up tonight. This is the largest crowd we've had at the end of a commission meeting in quite a while. And the 15 or so people that came and spoke brought things to our attention. And I'm sorry that the planning director took some of my comments personally. They weren't aimed at her. A good example of what I was talking about, number 15, the discussion of the lakes. I knew nothing about, and I still know nothing about, the lakes and what goes on. And this information was dropped on Saturday morning as that I asked about Ms. Blaine about the information. And that's kind of been a sticker to me for many, many, many months, maybe years, that staff can agree with what I've said about why can't we get information earlier to where we can make informed decisions. And I apologize again if she took it personally that I was, you know, directing it toward her, but I just want to be informed of what's going on and how to make a good decision.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, covered lots of good stuff tonight. Okay, where do I start? All right, Benny, one of the things you just said about you know, a little more time, maybe the idea that Commissioner Matthews brought up tonight about maybe doing these sessions or something. I think that'd be very helpful for all of us and for the public, and I think that's something that we ought to look into. We do get a lot of information. You know, we had a very heavy agenda tonight, and we get that on Friday, and we have questions. And I can tell you, as long as I've been on the commission, which I mean isn't terribly long, 3 years, as either a commissioner or as a mayor, if I have a question, I just call and I get the answers. And I've never come to our meeting on Monday where I didn't feel like I had an answer to my questions. And yeah, there's going to be times that we have to discuss things up here, but that's kind of one of the expectations they have for us, you know, when they elected us, was to come up here and hash all this stuff out. So, you know, to me, staff has done a good job of getting information to us. I mean, could things improve? Of course they can. Everything can improve. I mean, every one of us can improve every day in things that we do. So I think maybe your idea, Daniel, I think is what we're talking about, and maybe that'll help with some of that, you know. So I think it'd be well worth talking about. I really do appreciate the big crowds. This is the biggest crowd we have had in a long, long time, and I love seeing lots of people here. It really does help us do our job if you come talk to us. And so thank you, and thank you for so many folks that came up and talked tonight. I mean, that's very, 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 very helpful. The proclamation that we did tonight, Commissioner Flood didn't get nearly enough credit in what happened tonight, because that is his ward, and he worked really hard to get that on the agenda, and that was an honor to do that, an absolute honor. And the 7 of us came down to show you our solidarity and our support for that proclamation, and we're very sincere about that. So thank you and I'm so happy people stuck around to the end of this meeting. I mean, that is just great, because usually we're just talking to a few empty seats by the time we're done here. But thank you so much, and thank you, representatives from the Dunbar area, to come and visit with us. We know lots of things have not gone as they should have in the past, and we want to do what we can to to rectify that. So thank you for coming and allow us to make a step in that direction. I know a lot of us talked about the situation with Rebecca, and I'm gonna talk about that too. I think she's done a tremendous job for us, and I really hate that things got as tense as they did. Mr. Weaver has every obligation, I would say, even to ask questions and get those resolved. I think we sometimes need to be very careful in how we maybe the tone that we use. A few years back, when I first got on the commission, I think it was OMAG brought us a video, and I can remember watching it up here. And I know you guys were all here. I don't think anybody to my left was here. And I think our jaws hit the table when we watched that. It was a city commission meeting in Detroit.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I mean, the way they talked to each other and the way they treated each other, and I'm not saying, and Mr. Weaver, I'm certainly not
Thank
saying
you. Yeah.
you were,
Thank
I'm not comparing you to that. That was not my intention, and I don't think you're trying to, intentionally push her buttons or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But I just think we have to be very intentional and very careful about how we deal with each other, because we do have to work with each other, and we do it for the benefit of the city, and maybe we ought to see that video again, because, to me, I was like, I don't know why anybody'd even want to go to those meetings. That was one of the most upsetting things I've ever seen in my life. All right, I'm gonna let that go with that, but no, I'm not. I do want to apologize also to Rebecca for not, standing up for this probably a little quicker than again. And again, I'm not attacking Bob. That's not the point at all. I just ask that we all be kind and considerate to each other, and there's nothing wrong with asking questions. There's nothing wrong with asking hard questions, but let's just maybe just try to double our efforts to treat each other the way we want to be treated. One last thing I'm going to talk about, just because I want to be very open and very honest about everything, and that is Saturday I had a heart attack. Yeah, I know. Can you imagine that? And you wouldn't believe what that really does not feel good. So I was feeling rather bad, and Phyllis ran me up to here's St. Anthony's, and let me tell you, they had me in and out of there in 10 minutes. They realized what was going on, and they got me on an ambulance and got me to the heart hospital. And then there was, when we got, and let me tell you, that was a wild ride. If you've never done an ambulance ride, 85 miles an hour with lights and siren on I-40 all the way to the heart hospital, that was something else. And we got there, there was a team. Seriously, there was like 10 people. They brought me in, and it kind of reminded me of a pit stop at the Indy 500. And they were working on me from head to toe. There was a doctor there that had already gotten all the information from St. Anthony's, and they said, you got a blockage, we got to go back and fix it right now. And if anybody wants to look, there's a little teeny tiny, how little that is. There's a little teeny tiny hole in my wrist that they went, yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, and it's they go all the way there in your heart, and I was awake for all that. I don't know, were you? Okay, so I was awake and basically watched this whole thing, and they put a couple of stents in my heart, and within seriously an hour, you probably felt different right away too, did you? And it's like I could not believe it, and I'll be honest with you, I feel better right now than I have in months and months. I have a lot more energy, and I feel great. So thankful for our folks here at St. Anthony's. They could, diagnose something really quick, and it's pretty amazing. It really was. So anyway, it's a small town, and word gets around, and we go, oh my gosh, the mayor had a heart attack. Well, yes, he did. So I would just assume you just heard that from me, and And, you know, I don't mind talking about it at all, obviously, so thank you to Phyllis for... All right, enough of that. So we are adjourned, and we will move on to the Airport Authority, and we have our minutes. So if anybody like to, not much to talk about there, is there?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Matthews and Mr. Weaver. Okay, we have a motion and a second for item 1 there. Call the question. And that passes 7-0. New business.
Mr. Mayor, new business.
Adjourn then. All right, so we will go to the Municipal Authority, and we will look at the consent agenda. Looks like we're kind of in the same boat. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Flood. All right, Mr. Seahorn. And we will call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Any new business?
Mr. Mayor, no new business.
Guess what? It's time to go home. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for...